Hello friends, Constance here from Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So I'm out doing chores today. We're in the middle of a heat wave, so it's miserable. Of course, half the country's in a heat wave right now. But I thought I would bring you out while I'm doing evening chores. I've already done some of them, but I've still got a couple more things to do. Thought I would just bring you out and chat about some things that have been on my mind. This may be one of those videos where I lose 50 subscribers, but that's okay. If that's what happens, then I wasn't supposed to have them. They weren't supposed to be here. You know what I'm saying? So, let's get to work. Listen here, Piggy. Hi. What's your treat? Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Is that good? Oh, thank you. All right, got one left. Got an odd number. There we go. Oh, baby. Alright, you guys, so before I say anything else, I just want to say this is not a political video. When it comes to political parties, I'm pretty disconnected, I guess I should say. I don't put faith in government in general because government is made up of human beings and they are easily corruptible. And I think that kind of says everything. We should not put our faith and trust in government. Our faith and trust should only be in God. I even have a t-shirt that says that. So I don't want you to think that what I'm going to talk about is any sort of slam on the current administration, because I don't like any of them. I'm just being truthful. All right, so those of you who are new here, a few years ago when the mandates came down, my husband's job was one of those places that was affected by it. And he was told he had a deadline that he had to accept the gene juice or lose his job. And my husband refused. We sat down, we discussed it, and worked out our finances to see, are we going to lose our house? What was going to happen if he lost his job? And he was really frustrated, really upset, and at one point he talked about just straight up quitting because he didn't want to be harassed about it. And I had suggested that he just wait. I said, don't quit, make them fire you. And he took my advice and waited. And they kept pushing back the deadline and pushing back the deadline until finally they just said, okay, forget it. And he still works for the same company. That said, I've been seeing the last week or so, I've been seeing all sorts of news stories that really have my antenna up. First, last week, the host of this video made the statement that they were going to begin censoring any sorts of statements or viewpoints that were unapproved. And that was my first, what's going on here? And then the last couple days, I started seeing all these reports of the mandates coming back. Everything's being pushed. Everything's being pushed again. There are purchase orders from our government for millions and millions of dollars of masks and tests and you name it. They're buying it all up again because apparently there's a new one. This one's called Eris, and I really, really hope that the name of this variety is a coincidence, that it's a coincidence that they named it Eris, because if you don't know what Eris is the pagan goddess, the Greek goddess of strife, discord, chaos. So was it a coincidence that they named the new variant that, or was there a meaning behind it? So I've kind of been thinking about all of that and what that is going to entail. And it made me want to kind of mention, I did a video a couple weeks ago about the importance of having a stocked pantry, and I've talked about that in other videos. In that particular video, I made the case for the most important thing for you to be stocked up on is your faith. Because, there's executive orders and all this stuff out there that says if you're hoarding supplies, the government can just come and take it. So what we have in our pantries may not even be for us. We may not even have the ability to keep them. A natural disaster could happen, a man-made disaster could happen, and it all could be wiped out. I think we're reaching a point where we really need to make sure that we are listening to the Spirit of God and that we know who the Father is. Because I believe we are going to be reaching a time where we're not going to know what the truth is. And we're going to need to rely on His Spirit. You see all these stories about AI. You've got Chat GPT and all these creepy things that involve AI. And people make out like it's just fun and games. But when you realize that the people who made it are absolutely terrified and have no idea what has just been released on humanity and are trying to, cry out and warn people and nobody's listening, it makes you really think that, probably not a game. They've talked about how all of the things that you would do to verify your identity, it can be mimicked and replicated, and your own voice, your image can be replicated, so even your voice and your image won't be proof of identity in the very near future, according to the people who created this. So how are we going to protect our identity? Then couple in, I'm a little bit of a history buff. I study history and I study the Bible. And I'm not a prophet, I don't pretend to be or anything like that, but I'm really good at puzzles. And I'm really good at seeing things that don't look like they match and seeing exactly how they could fit together. We have kind of a perfect storm of things taking place. The pandemic, you've got the wickedly everyday fun folks trying to take over the world. They want to control everything in your life, where you live, what you eat, where you go, you name it. And we haven't even touched on the fact that our government has come out now repeatedly telling us that aliens are real, and that we all need to kind of be prepared for when that happens. You know, I've seen two different people who did prophesy that 2025, that there's going to be signs in the sky, something that will lead people to believe that aliens are real. And now when it comes to prophets and prophecies, we're supposed to test those. They gave specific dates. If those things don't come to pass, then they're a false prophet, and we definitely don't need to ever listen to them again. But there's so many crazy things that one of them alone could lead us into absolute tyranny. But when you have all of these things coming together at the same time, it's kind of mind-boggling. And I mean, it blew me away to see this news story a couple weeks ago of all of these people standing in line for hours to have their palms scanned or their retinas scanned and registered so that they could pay with their biometrics. And they were super excited to do it. And then I went to a grocery store on my way to Alabama last week, and I stopped in, and lo and behold, they had palm readers there for you to pay with. You know, a couple of years ago, I was supposed to have surgery, and I had gone into the hospital. And when I was checking in, the lady asked me to put my hand on that machine to read my palm. And I'm like, what? And she's like, oh, we're just verifying your identity. And I said, no, I have an ID card, thank you. We'll just use that. And she kind of gave me a funny look, and then she's like, okay, fine. And every office that I went to in that hospital had these palm readers to use my right hand for my identification. Now with AI being able to replicate our identity, and then, you know, we have governments bringing in digital money, and folks, America's got a plan for a digital currency, and digital currency can be programmed, meaning they can decide what you cannot purchase, or if you can purchase anything at all. You know, they might decide, well, you have created too many emissions this year, and we don't want you driving anymore, so click of a button, now you can't purchase gasoline. Or you've eaten too much meat, click of a button, now you can't purchase meat. You go to the grocery store and your money just won't work. Have you ever gone to pay for something and had your bank card not work before? Happened to me a couple years ago. My bank, out of the blue, coincidentally, right after I purchased a book that they flagged as being suspect, that I had purchased this book, without telling me, shut down every bank card I had for multiple accounts. My emergency credit card, my personal checking account, and my work account. Everything shut down. Didn't tell me, just did it. Just didn't work. I couldn't withdraw money from an ATM machine. I couldn't purchase at a register. That's embarrassing when something like that happens. But that's what their goal is. Their goal is to control what you can and cannot do. And that might sound like I'm just like, oh, I'm trying to scare people. If you've ever read about how the Nazis and our tech companies, American tech companies like IBM, worked together to do all the things they did, how they had a punch card system that they used to monitor everyone and keep track of everyone and control everyone. If Hitler had had the technology that exists today, nobody would have survived. Nobody would have been able to escape. So yeah, it does concern me a little bit when I see things like this, because, you know, here in America, we've been free for a long time, but it's not the default for humanity. If you study history, you realize the default is serfdom, slavery, tyranny, oligarchy, all of these different things. That's the default. This window that we've had of a couple hundred years here in America, and the ability to believe what you want to believe and do what you want and live the life that you want to live, that's not been normal life for most of the world, for most of the existence of humanity. So with all of this said, I think it feels like there's a perfect storm about to take place. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I'm not saying this to for shock value or anything like that. I mean, I've kind of felt this for a couple of years now, and it's like every year it feels more and more intense. Like we're biding time, we're kind of holding things off a little bit, but eventually that storm is going to form and it's going to hit. And when it hits, I think it's going to be bad, folks. And I think we need to be prepared, most importantly, spiritually. You know, I'm not saying this because I'm afraid of all these things that are happening. I'm watchful. I watch world events. I watch current events. I watch what happens and I see patterns. And I will tell you, the only thing that scares me is my family, my loved ones not knowing the Lord. Yeah, I had a dream years ago, and I've mentioned it here and there, where I was martyred, where I gave my life for the Lord. And honestly, if that's what my end is going to be, that's what my end will be. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of dying. I mean, nobody wants to go through it, let's be real. But I'm afraid of the storm coming and my loved ones not knowing the Lord. That's what scares me. So, if you don't know the Lord, I would implore you to not wait another day. You don't have to study the Bible to become a Christian, to become a believer, okay? Study comes later. I will tell you, the prayer that changed my life, that led me on a completely new path, was very simple. It was uneducated. It wasn't fancy. It was simply this: God, I can't do this anymore. Please help me. My life changed that day. And I had no idea. I had no idea when I said those simple words what it would do. If you don't know the Lord, all you have to do is from the heart, just ask Him. Ask Him to forgive you for all of the stupid things you've done, willfully or ignorantly in your life. Ask Him for forgiveness. And He is quick and just to give it. And then ask Him to help you in your walk, help you to learn who He is, to walk in His ways. Ask Him to fill you with His Spirit to guide you, because that's what that's for. None of us are born again as believers and magically have all the answers. That's what grace is for. Because we're never going to get it right 100% of the time. And you can't do what you don't know. And you're going to do what you don't know not to do. That's not important. What's important most of all is to first turn to the Lord. To repent means to do a 180. Say, I'm not going to live this way any longer. I'm turning away from the old life and I want to live a new one. Father, help me. That's what repentance is. God, forgive me. Let me see my life the way you see it. And help me make decisions that would be pleasing to you, Father. Help me live a life that is worthy of the blood that was spent for me. And none of us will ever truly live that life that is worthy. We can't. We're so imperfect and we have such a holy God. But He made a way for us to come to Him anyways. Because that's what a loving Father does. A loving Father sees His child fall flat on their face get lost in the darkness and says, I'm over here, come to me. That's what our Father does. Abba. He says, come to me and I will help you. I think the times are, it feels like there's a darkness coming, and I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. I hope we have more time. I don't know if we will. You know, I do believe that most people over the last, 2,000 years felt like where they were living was the end of days. And we know it wasn't for them, but man, it sure feels like it now. So we all need to be praying for the Father to give us eyes to see things as He does, to listen to His voice, to have His Spirit so strong within us that we are not deceived, because the Bible says in the last days there are going to be great deceptions. Great deceptions. I don't know. Maybe aliens coming down and saying, we are the ones who made you, follow us. Who knows? I can only imagine what evil might be in store. I don't want to imagine. I just want to listen to the Father. I want to see with His eyes, and I don't want to be deceived. And that is what I pray. I pray for my loved ones to know who He is, and I pray that I am never deceived. We need to walk as close to our Father as we possibly can and cling tightly to His hand. So that is it for today. Thanks for joining me out here for a little bit of a rambling, meandering chat about the state of the world. But if you are someone who does not know the Father, if you want me to pray for you, leave it in the comments, or you can send me a private message via Instagram or in an email on my website, and I will pray with you. If you don't know the Father, you can take that opportunity today. Don't wait. So, my name is Constance from Cosmopolitan Cornbread, and I'll talk to y'all next time.